Gerald Mlelen, brain injury versus Nigel Ben, 1995. February 25, 1995, London. Gerald Mlelen steps into the ring like a predator. The American is on a mission, undefeated for 6 years with brutal power, 29 knockouts and 31 wins. He's the kind of fighter who doesn't take prisoners. In front of him stands Nigel Ben, the Dark Destroyer, one of the few men willing to face him. The fight is intense, violent from the first bell. Mlelen knocks Ben out of the ring in the first round, but Ben gets back up, possessed, fueled by something primal, and that's when the wild, relentless exchange begins. Mlelen fights with his hands low, his eyes strange and unfocused. He blinks constantly, kneels down even without being hit. Something is wrong, but no one sees it. The referee lets it continue. Neither corner raises an alarm. People think he's tired, maybe playing possum, but round after round, the truth becomes heavier. Gerald is falling, literally. In the 10th round, Ben lands a brutal combination. Mlelen kneels again. The referee counts. Once, twice. Then the third time, he doesn't get up. He's breathing, but his gaze is empty. He's conscious, but his body is quit. Minutes later, Gerald collapses in the dressing room. Rushed to the hospital. Diagnosis: a brain hemorrhage. Major head trauma, a blood clot compressing his brain. Emergency surgery. He survives, but he is no longer the same man. Today, Gerald Mlelen is 95% blind, partially deaf, and over 80% paralyzed. He can't walk. He can no longer speak as he once did. He needs round-the-clock care. His sister Lisa looks after him. She says he understands everything, that he feels everything, that he's just trapped inside his own body. This fight became one of the most cited examples in discussions about boxing safety because there was no final blow, no sudden tragedy, just a silent buildup, ignored signs, a man breaking down before our eyes, and no one knew when to say stop. Magomed Abdulamov, coma and brain damage, versus Mike Perez, 2013. Sometimes, it's not the hardest punches that destroy a man. It's the ones no one pays attention to, the ones people choose to ignore. November 2nd, 2013, Madison Square Garden. On one side, Magomed Abdulamov, a tough Russian heavyweight with 18 wins, all by knockout. Opposite him, Mike Perez, a powerful and unpredictable Cuban. It's a promising fight, but not yet a historic one. From the opening round, it's clear this night will be different. The punches are heavy, faces bruise quickly, but Magomed keeps coming forward again and again with that resilience we admire in fighters, resilience that sometimes kills them. The bout goes the distance. Abdulamov loses on points. His face is disfigured, his nose broken, his cheekbones swollen like a balloon. But what happens after is far more brutal than anything Perez threw. Magomed stumbles after leaving the ring. His head hurts. He says he's cold. He can't feel his limbs properly. He vomits. But no one sends him to a hospital. No one raises the alarm. Instead, he's sent back to his hotel with his wife and team. An hour later, he collapses. Coma. Critical emergency. Diagnosis: massive brain bleeding. Hemorrhage. Stroke. Emergency surgery. He remains in a coma for weeks. When he wakes up, he can no longer speak. He can no longer walk. Magomed Abdulamov, the boxer, is gone. What remains is a broken man, trapped in a body that no longer responds. He now lives in a wheelchair, fully dependent. His wife, Bakane, has become his nurse. His children saw him leave that night and never truly come back. It wasn't just the fight that slowly took his life. It was negligence, incompetence, the cold bureaucracy of a boxing commission meant to protect him. That night changed the history of boxing in New York. The Abdulamov family filed a lawsuit. And they won. The state of New York admitted fault. A settlement of over $20 million was reached. But no amount of money will return Magomed's voice. No verdict will give his children their father back. Billy Collins Jr., the loss that should never have happened, versus Luis Resto, 1983. This fight was supposed to be just a chapter. It became the end of the story. June 16th, 1983. Madison Square Garden. Billy Collins Jr., young and full of confidence, faces Luis Resto in an undercard fight. It should have been a perfect opportunity for Collins Jr. to shine, but nothing goes according to plan. From the first exchanges, Billy is hit too easily. Every punch that lands feels like cement crashing into his face. By the second round, his right eye is already swollen shut. By the end of the sixth, his father begs him in the corner. "You can't see anything, Billy. You can't keep going." But he continues. 8 more minutes. 8 minutes of punishment and destruction. When the fight ends, Billy is unrecognizable. In the locker room, Billy's father shakes Resto's hand, and something feels wrong. His hand sinks in too deep. There's no padding. The gloves are suspicious. Officials are alerted. An investigation begins. The verdict is devastating. The gloves were tampered with. Padding had been removed. Resto fought with bare-knuckle-like fists. Every punch to Billy was a steel blow. Worse, trainer Panama Lewis helped plan it. They knew. The result? Billy Collins Jr. suffers irreversible eye damage. He can never fight again. His future vanishes with his vision. Weeks go by, his career ends, his morale crumbles, his world falls apart. 8 months later, his car is found at the bottom of a ravine. Billy is dead, officially an accident, but many believe it was suicide, and how could you argue otherwise? Evander Holyfield. The night boxing lost its dignity. 1997. It was supposed to be a rematch, a grand night, another chapter between two legends of the ring. Instead, it turned into a nightmare. June 28, 1997, Las Vegas. All eyes are on Mike Tyson, seeking redemption. Just 6 months earlier, Evander Holyfield had beaten him in a shocking upset. This time, Tyson doesn't just want to win, he wants to destroy. From the opening seconds, something is off. Tyson is not in control. Holyfield, calm and confident, walks him down, shuts him off, smothers his rhythm. Round after round, the beast grows frustrated. Tyson swings at air, he's boiling. And then in round 3, something utterly bizarre happens. In a clinch, under the gaze of millions of viewers, Mike Tyson opens his mouth and bites Holyfield's ear. Not a nip, a chunk ripped off. Holyfield jumps back, screaming. He staggers, clutching his ear. Blood drips. Tyson's corner celebrates. The crowd is frozen. Commentators are speechless. After a moment's hesitation, the referee allows the fight to continue. The worst possible decision, because Tyson bites again, this time the other ear. Enough, the fight is stopped. Holyfield wins by disqualification. The arena, silent at first, erupts in a storm of screams, insults, and disbelief. In the locker rooms, the images go global. Holyfield's mutilated ear becomes the symbol of a night gone insane. Tyson is suspended for a year and fined $3 million, but the moral punishment weighs heavier. Yet through it all, Holyfield never snapped. He didn't hit after the bell. He didn't seek revenge. He stood tall, calm, human. Patrick Day, the boxer who never got back up. He had the kind of smile that made the world feel lighter, clean, honest, disarming. Patrick Day, 27, was a boxer. Yes, but more than that, he was a man of peace in a sport of war. A former student, educated, calm, well-mannered, and respected. He wasn't a brawler. He was a stylist, a patient craftsman, more poet than predator. And yet, on October 12, 2019, he stepped into the ring for what would become his final fight. Across from him stood a young rising star named Charles Conwell. Undefeated, stronger, younger, more explosive. There was no bad blood between them, no trash talk, no hatred. Just two lives crossing in the cruel geometry of boxing. From the opening rounds, Patrick absorbed punishment. He tried to stay composed, to answer back, but the gap was clear. Conwell kept landing clean, sharp hooks, relentless combinations. You could feel the imbalance. Round after round, the fight became a downhill slope. And then came round 10, the one that tipped everything over, a left hook, crisp, precise, right behind the ear. The kind of punch you don't see coming. Patrick collapsed. Instantly, no stumble, just down. He never got up. The referee rushed over. The doctor climbed into the ring. But Patrick was just lying there, motionless, eyes wide open and empty. The cameras turned away. The broadcast cut the feed. Everyone understood. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was a life or death moment. He was stretchered out, rushed to Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. There, doctors diagnosed a severe traumatic brain injury. He was placed in a coma. Days passed, his family hoped. The boxing world held its breath. But 4 days later, Patrick Day died. He never woke up. His final fight, the one he never wanted to lose, had taken everything from him. Amir Mansour, The Taste of Blood, versus Dominic Breazeale, 2016. It takes courage to step into the ring at 43. But Amir Mansour was never like other fighters. A former inmate who returned late to the sport, he carried in his fists the fury of someone who knew there was no time left to waste. Tough, brutal, but above all, relentless. On January 23, 2016, he faced a younger, taller, fresher opponent, Dominic Breazeale. 30 years old, undefeated, an Olympian, and backed by Al Haymon. No one gave Mansour a chance, but he didn't care. He wasn't there to impress. He was there to exist. And from the opening bell, he turned the fight into a war. Right away, Amir Mansour set a wild pace. He pressed forward, landed bombs, walked through fire. He even dropped Breazeale. The crowd was stunned. The old lion was shaking the cub. He forced a brawl Breazeale hadn't expected, but as the rounds wore on, something felt off. Mansour slowed down. His breathing labored. His mouth hung open. Between exchanges, he looked like he was choking. Then the camera caught something chilling. Blood. A lot of it. Pouring from his mouth. At first, people thought it was an internal cut, but no, it was something far worse. Amir Mansour had bitten his tongue. Not just a nick, he had nearly sliced it in half. And still, he fought on. Round after round, he didn't fall, didn't quit, didn't say a word. He kept going. Until, finally, his corner, alarmed by the volume of blood he was spitting into the bucket, threw in the towel after 6 rounds. Mansour was furious. He shouted that he could continue. He begged. He didn't want to stop, but the doctors intervened. Emergency surgery. His tongue was shredded. The doctors had to stitch it back in several places just to save it from dying. The next day, he couldn't speak. That night, he may have lost the fight, but he earned eternal respect. Not for winning, but for his lucid madness, his brutal bravery, and that metallic taste he would never forget. Pritchard Cologne, the boxer no one listened to, versus Terrell Williams 2015. Pritchard Cologne had what people call light, amateur champion, Olympian for Puerto Rico. He spoke 4 languages, smiled constantly, and hit like a veteran. At 23, he had never tasted defeat, and he didn't look like other fighters. He had the style of an artist, the body of an athlete, and the eyes of a man who knew exactly where he was going. But on October 17th, 2015, in a small venue at Eagle Bank Arena in Fairfax, fate interrupted his path. It wasn't a major event, not a world title fight, just a developmental bout against a tough opponent, Terrell Williams. And from the early rounds, something felt wrong. Williams landed low blows, then rabbit punches, shots to the back of the head, over and over. Cologne grimaced, he turned to the referee. He complained quietly, humbly, but he was ignored. Silence. The illegal shots kept coming, and Pritchard, brave as ever, didn't quit. He kept pushing forward, but you could see it. He started to wobble slightly. Something inside him was slipping. Then, after the 9th round, his corner stopped the fight. It wasn't Pritchard who asked to quit. It was his team. A few minutes later in the locker room, Pritchard collapsed. Coma. Brain hemorrhage. He would never fully wake up again. The medical verdict? Massive brain injury. He survived, but he was trapped. Unable to speak, unable to walk, and from that day on, the fight moved from the ring to a hospital room. His mother Nina became his warrior. She helped him breathe, eat, and stay alive. She took him to therapy, surrounded him with love. She turned her son into a cause. Because beyond the tragedy, there was injustice. The referee never warned Williams. No one was suspended. And Pritchard, he had told him. He said he was hurt. He said something was wrong, but no one listened. Badou Jack. The injury that should have stopped the world versus Marcus Brown, 2019. Some injuries you feel, some you hear, and then there are the ones you see and never forget. On January 19th, 2019 in Las Vegas, Badou Jack stepped into the ring against Marcus Brown. A tactical duel, a clash of styles. But no one could have imagined this bout would produce one of the most shocking images in modern boxing. The fight began normally. Jack was focused, cautious, as always. Brown, faster and more aggressive, tried to create separation. The exchanges were sharp, rounds passed. Then, boom. In the 7th round, a violent accidental headbutt. Too fast to catch in real time, but the aftermath was chilling. A gash opened on Badou Jack's forehead. Not a cut, a canyon. A vertical split straight between the eyes. Blood poured thick and steady. It ran down his face, into his eyes, over his chest. The crowd gasped. Commentators hesitated, but Jack stood tall, for 5 more rounds, with a red chasm in the middle of his face. The ringside doctor checked him, looked, allowed the fight to continue, and from that moment, the match crossed into the surreal. This wasn't boxing anymore, it was willpower on display. Jack knew he couldn't win, but he refused to bow. And in that refusal, he earned something rare: respect. Not for his punches, not for his defense, but for his dignity. After the fight, the images went viral. He received 25 stitches. And yet, during post-fight interviews, Jack smiled. He didn't complain, he thanked his opponent and simply said, "It wasn't my night, but I'll be back."